Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're listening from. My name is Daniel Clayton, and I'm responsible for security operations at Expel. I'm here today with Aaron Morton, who's one of our threat intelligence analysts and actually is the author of our annual threat report. And the goal today is to talk a little bit about our annual threat report. Aaron's gone through it and pulled out a few key takeaways, and so we're gonna talk about that a little bit with you guys. This is our third iteration of our annual threat report, and it's really intended to be a report that's written by practitioners for practitioners. And the goal very much for us was to not only be informational about the information that we're passing on to you guys, but also wherever we can be as well, to be actionable, and to provide you with actionable information that you can actually use to help secure your environment, to help improve your security program, and help you wherever we can. So, Aaron, what did you land on from the report this year?
Awesome. What we're going to talk about is the major areas of the report. First of all, identity-based attacks, cloud infrastructure, malware, vulnerabilities, and ransomware, and phishing. Like Daniel said, both of this presentation and both with the report, we've had a high priority talking about the actions an organization might take based on the findings. This is a huge priority within Expel. We always want to see organizations become more secure over time. So the first area we're going to talk about is identity-based attacks.
Yeah, good. So look, identity-based attacks, they continue to be a massive challenge for organizations up and down the country. It's really been the number one issue in all of the previous iterations of our threat report. So let's talk a little bit. What did you see, or what did the Expel SOC see this year?
Yeah, like you said, we're seeing increased rates of identity-based attacks. There's two primary type of attacks that we track. Business email compromise. This is when a threat actor gains access to emails to commit fraud. And business account compromise. This is when actors gain access to identity providers and they can access other applications. We also saw a number of targeted attacks that were attempting to commit business application compromise. These attacks were carried out by a threat group known as the COM. This group is built up of a number of actors. It also includes some actors that others talk about as scattered spider. And in the events that we observed, the threat actors had attempted to gain access to accounts by using password resets. They used two different main tactics. They would attempt to use self-service password resets and then spam MFA requests to the target trying to gain access to the account. And then they would also call the help desk and try to get the password reset. And then if that was successful, again, they would spam MFA requests attempting to gain access to the account. And in the coming year, we anticipate there's going to be more attacks like this. And we anticipate that AI is going to be a big part of these attacks as well.
Yeah, I mean, identity attacks are always a massive issue, but this year is a little bit of a perfect storm, right? With an election year going on with an election happening later on this year, a massive amount of opportunity for adversaries, for phishing attacks, for social engineering. There's lots of emotions running high, and really a lot of opportunity for adversaries to play on those emotions, and get employees and individuals to click on things that they wouldn't normally click on. So, Aaron, what can we do to help companies protect themselves?
Yeah, I think one thing that stood out to us, especially with these targeted attacks, was that strong security controls work. So, for example, in this attack involving the COM, we observed that the majority of the attempts were blocked. And within these organizations, they were blocked because the organization had a policy that required users to authenticate from managed devices. So it's not just everyone or every device that could log in. So even though they were very persistent, that policy kept them out. In addition to that, we heavily recommend that all accounts should be secured with MFA. We also recommend that these different security policies, such as password resets and the procedures around them, need to be tested regularly. And all these types of policies that are going to ensure to limit unauthorized access to these accounts.
Okay, good. Hopefully that's helpful. So the next one thing on the list to talk about is cloud infrastructure. I mean, cloud infrastructure is absolutely massive. We used to talk about cloud adoption rates and whether or not organizations and companies were going to move to the cloud. That's not a thing anymore, right? I think, in the past, when we were trying to be more efficient within business, we were trying to be, 1%, 2%, 3% more efficient. And with the advent of cloud computing and microservices and all of those opportunities that we have today, we're mostly trying to be 10x more efficient, right? A minimum of 10x more efficient. So all companies now up and down the company and all over the globe are moving to the cloud, taking advantage of the efficiencies that we gain from the cloud. So Aaron, are we seeing a similar correlation in attacks in cloud infrastructure to what we see in cloud uptake?
Yeah, we're seeing exactly that. Where we saw a 72% increase of incidents in the cloud. And a lot of this is that there's more cloud usage going on. The top incident that we saw was associated with stolen or leaked secrets. Just for clarity, when I say secrets, I'm specifically referring to signatures, passwords, API keys, certificates, and other sensitive data that's used to manage cloud infrastructure. And when we looked across the industries that were impacted, it was essentially anyone that was using cloud infrastructure. They were at risk of this key exposure. So these secrets, they're essential for organizations to secure, and they can end up getting leaked through repositories or exposed by the server itself.
Yeah, when I talk to CISOs and CSOs and IT leaders of our customers, they talk about the challenges of moving to the cloud. And one of the things I hear all the time is this challenge of expertise. Not only is it really difficult for organizations to recruit, retain, and manage cloud expertise, but cloud security expertise is even harder to find. So what can we do? Are there any preventative measures that we can help our customers with in terms of securing the cloud?
Yeah, a very important thing is using automation, both in the deployment of new cloud instances, because that helps ensure that you have secure configurations. Other things that we suggest you can do with automation is also use things such as secret scanners, where you can do continuous scanning of code repositories and also your external infrastructure to identify if any secrets or any sensitive data is leaked. And attackers generally use the same types of automated things in order to find these exposed secrets, but automation can empower us too.
Absolutely. Automate as much as we possibly can. It's a common theme for us. Okay, malware vulnerabilities and ransomware, really interesting area, massive issue. And if you go online and you start reading about the latest attacks, it's often not what you're expecting to see. Within Intel, within the cyber world, we talk a lot about the advanced persistent threat. We talk a lot about nation state attacks and 0 days and a lot of sophistication behind what adversaries are doing today. And sure, that stuff's out there. But generally speaking, most of the time when attacks are happening, most of the time when compromises are happening, it's not something really sophisticated. It's because we haven't patched. Right? It's because we haven't been able to do the blocking and tackling as effectively as we should have been able to. And of course, if you're unable to do patching well, then bad actors are able to exploit the existing vulnerabilities in the organization. It's really easy for them to land within the organization. And then that brings into play things like ransomware, which is a constantly evolving attack, really, really difficult to defend against, and has really been the bane of many businesses over the last few years. So what can we talk about in terms of malware in general, what we're seeing within the Expel SOC?
Yeah. In regards to malware, it's not too far different from what you talked about in terms of vulnerabilities, where it can sometimes be a lot less sophisticated than we might imagine. Because a lot of ransomware actors also gain access to environments due to some other malware that hasn't been mitigated. So one thing that we talked about within the report was an issue around shadow IT. And shadow IT specifically refers to software that's downloaded into an environment without going through a vetting process by the IT department. Shadow IT is particularly risky because attackers have been leveraging search engine ads and other things to lead users to download malicious payloads. And to mitigate this risk and ensure that you need to ensure that end users have the tools to do their job so that they don't feel like they need to go out and find it on their own or find alternative tools. We also recommend ensuring that security policies are really easy and painless so that users can get software as their needs change. It's also good to be aware that ad blockers can help in this regard, because there's a number of threat actors using browser ads, and it's worth considering if they should be made standard within the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Shadow IT continues to be a growing problem, I think, for most IT managers and most IT leaders, in all sorts of organizations. So we're going to talk a little bit about phishing. We've already mentioned identity attacks, but phishing is one of those areas. It's always in the top 2 most common attack vectors every year, depending on which report you read. And phishing is one of those things that is constantly evolving and changing. And so for us to stay aware, we need to be on top of it. We started off with phishing, and then things got a little bit more focused and customized with spear phishing. And we started to see smishing, where attackers were using SMS messages to phish victims. And now we're at a point where we're even seeing things like deep fake, AI-driven voice phishing attacks, where we have adversaries pretending to be a CEO or pretending to be a help desk or something like that. So I've no doubt it's evolving even more. What's the latest, Aaron?
Yeah, the latest is what people are calling quishing, which isn't a term I like, but it's spelled with a Q. This is QR code phishing. You're probably familiar with QR codes. They're such as you might see where there's a barcode. These have become very popular at things like restaurants. We're able to scan a QR code to look at the menu, order from the table, or even pay. And within phishing, a lot of what we're seeing with using these QR codes is a short message that says something such as, hey, scan this QR code to get information about your benefits, or hey, scan this QR code to fix your security settings. And when you scan such a QR code, it tends to send you to a login page that's controlled by an attacker. Now, these QR codes are also a little bit difficult to handle from a security perspective. And part of that's because it takes the activity off of the end user's endpoint device, which might have stronger security settings, to their mobile device, where a security team might not have visibility.
Yeah, so obviously with these evolving phishing attacks, awareness is a big part of the challenge, right? Being aware that these new types of attacks are happening. Hopefully we've raised a little bit of awareness now about this, but what can organizations do specifically to protect themselves?
Like you said, awareness is super critical. I think it's very important for organizations to express what's to be expected, right? Are members of the organization supposed to expect QR codes for benefits? Are they supposed to expect QR codes for security updates? It's good to communicate about that type of thing. In the same regard, it's also well worth to include them in simulations to ensure that end users are treating them with caution, whether they're being reported or some other method. We also recommend ensuring that you have defense in depth, that you're able to detect these malicious authentications at multiple points in the attack lifecycle, that you're not just protecting against the phishing email, but you're also detecting these suspicious login activities.
Okay, good. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of insight into the types of things that we've been seeing in the Expel SOC over the last 12 months. And also, hopefully we've given you some ideas to go away and think about, hey, do I have this in place? Do I have that in place in order to protect against these things that Expel is seeing? One of the other things that we did within the report was there's a section in the report on predictions for 2024. Hopefully that will be a little bit of a fun read, but it will also hopefully give you the ability to be a little bit proactive about the types of things that you may need to mitigate in 2024. So there's one or two in there from me. I know there's some predictions from Aaron as well in there. in addition to our CEO and our CISO and several other members of my team as well. So take a look, see if there's anything in there that's valuable, that is really relevant and useful to your organization and your security program. We'd love you to download the report, spend a little bit of time with it. There's a link on the screen now that you can use to download that report. We've also included a resilience checklist so that you can do a little bit of a self-assessment of your own environment. And there's some contact details on there for us as well. So we'd love to hear from you. We appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll talk with you all again soon. Thanks very much.